Hey, what's up? What's going on, guys? I'm sorry it took a long time for me to get around to making this video, but I wanted to just go over really quick how I find my supply and demand levels so I can have a chart that looks really clean like this right here. So you have your supply level, your demand level, and sometimes I throw in an RSI just like that, just to find my oversold and overbought levels. So before we start, let me just go over really quick the indicators that we'll be using. So we'll be using this right here. So it says support and resistance channel slash zones multi-time frame. So it's this one by Lonesome the Blue. It's a free indicator. And this is what we use for our supply and demand levels. And then I also like to use Trend Lines Pro. It's by the same creator. This is for our trend lines. This costs a little bit of money though, I think about $80 or $100. And this helps us find our trend lines on any time frame, and it works with live trading. I'll also be using my RSI. I like this one right here. It shows up like this. So that's just about it. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to jump to, we'll try on different stocks. We'll jump to Apple first. So first thing I like to do is I like to go on the hourly chart and look if there's a trend line. Sometimes I'll look at the daily chart. If I'm day trading though, maybe just the hourly. And I see if there's a significant trend line. So we can see where Apple, the trend here, it's kind of a descending trend line. So now we can just hide that just to have an idea. And I go to the 5-minute time frame and we turn on our supply and demand indicator. So to this one, when we go to settings, I remove tables. Tables is just this table right here, which I don't like using too much. So I turn that off. And for input, I leave this at either 30 minutes or 1 hour, and you can experiment and see what you like. So we'll leave it at 30 minutes for now. I've noticed some stocks is better when it's at the 1 hour time frame to find better supply and demand levels. Just experiment with what you like. And then we can say, okay. And now what I like to also do is I like to highlight it myself because sometimes they could disappear on us when you're switching between time frames, I mean. All right, so we can hide that. We can make this green right here. And now let's take a look at this. So just right from the bat on the 5-minute time frame, we can see how well the supply and let me just write it in. We can see how well the supply and demand level worked on this day. So this is September 23rd, so the last trading day. I like to use it with our RSI, and the way I would trade is I would set an alert, for instance, right here, and then an alert down here, and I would only look for trading opportunities once it's in my supply or my demand zones. I would see if it's like right here in my supply level to see if the RSI is also telling me a story. So right here, we're in the supply zone right here, and I would see is the RSI telling me that we're kind of overbought and that we can expect some selling pressure, and it is RSI is at about 60. And then same thing when it comes down to this demand zone, I would do the same thing and see Are we in a place where we're kind of overbought? And what is this stock doing at this level? Another indicator, I don't like using too many indicators, but another one that I might throw in is my VWAP. And this is the VWAP that I like to use. It's the first thing that pops up on TradingView, so volume weighted average price, and it gives you many options, all of these different bands, and the only one that I like to keep on it is either my upper band, lower band, or VWAP. Just test it out, whichever one you like. If I'm looking for a long position, I use the lower band. So if I'm looking for a long position, like right here, I would see once it breaks this lower band. And if I'm looking for a short position, I would use the upper band. So we can come right here and we can see this would have been, we're in our supply zone. Let's make this larger. We're in our supply zone. Our RSI is telling us it's oversold, and it broke this upper band of the VWAP, and this would make for a good trade. I like to use percents for my stop losses and my take profits, but you can trade from supply to demand or vice versa, whatever is your trading style. So we'll just do a couple more examples. So that was Apple. Um, and it doesn't just give us for our like the trading day for the day. If you turn on if you turn on the indicator, you can see there's other time frames. Like you see, it would have been pretty accurate on this day. Same thing over here. Okay. So now we can take a look at NVIDIA. And like I said, I like to put in my own highlights. And the reason this helps is, for instance, if NVIDIA, um, just say right now, as we can see, NVIDIA is at $125 almost. So just say pre-market, you see it's at $125. You can already see some supply and demand levels. So you have levels where you can trade off of, and you're not just doing guessing. All right, so now we can hide that. We'll make this red. Okay, so this is almost the same exact thing. So we have our supply, we have our demand zone, and we can see our RSI. So we would do the same thing. We would wait till the stock comes into a supply zone, and we would look for puts only from the supply zone. And like I said, we can use the VWAP as just another indicator to help us. So it breaks the VWAP and it starts trading below the supply zone, and we can see it's oversold on the RSI. We can take some long positions. We can take some long positions around right here. We see that it came here into this demand zone. We would have an indicator that would alert us, hey, we're coming close to our demand zone. We check our RSI. We can see our RSI is about 43. So it's a little oversold, and it traded right back up into this supply zone. So I would do the same thing. Our stop losses would be if it breaks these levels and it's looking for a new high, then we take a stop loss. So we can move on. I'll just do a couple more. So I'll highlight all of these just so we can see times where it's not perfect necessarily. Okay, so I'll turn off the indicator. We can see all these zones here. And so this is for Netflix. So Netflix pre-market is trading around $231. We know that we have this zone right here that would be a resistance level. It's a supply level that's right above. So Netflix opens up, it comes into this zone, and we can look for puts around this area. It's at $236. It's in a supply level. Our RSI is oversold. Um, and it starts breaking below our VWAP. And it comes back down and comes down into this 232 zone. You can take profits or you can trade down until it comes to this next demand zone. And we can see this demand zone worked as another pop. So it worked right here as another area where we can take longs. It's kind of a risky game though, playing long and short, but this would be an area where it wouldn't work. Just say you came in here and you see that Netflix starts selling off and it comes into this 230 zone, which would be a demand zone. You would expect it to pop off, but it doesn't. It starts breaking below, and this is when you would take a stop. It starts breaking below this zone, which means your analysis was incorrect and you take a stop. Not every trade will be perfect, but we need at least half of them to be perfect to be profitable. But as it sells off, we see that this 221 zone worked as a perfect demand zone and bounced off of this level. And this right here would have been a good trade into the close. Let's see if there's, okay, so this is Tesla. So since this is supply and demand level trading, supply and demand levels work for any stock, any crypto, anything. It's just a zone where a stock is super oversold and buyers step in, and a demand zone and a supply zone is a place where stocks are too oversold and or too overbought, and sellers step in to bring that price back down. So we can see here with Tesla had this huge sell-off from the day before. So it dropped from 288 and starts selling off and drops almost 5%. But we see this demand zone that the indicator gave us. We would have found the exact bottom at about $275. And we could have ran this for a percent. And we know in options, that's a big thing. So it runs up and we have a few opportunities here to catch some long positions. And these positions are valid all the way until the bottom of the highlighted area. So all of this. And demand and supply zones work until they don't work. Once this is broken and it starts trading below this, then this then becomes a supply level or a resistance level that Tesla would struggle to break through once it starts trading below this level. So that's all I have. Let me see. Let's just turn on this RSI for us also so you can just look at this better. Okay, so we can see around this zone when Tesla first came into this demand zone was here around 9:50 in the morning, and we can see the RSI was as low as 16, extremely oversold, and it's a trade that would where we would be very confident because of how oversold we are. And around here, we see we're not as oversold. RSI is about 37, but still oversold. Um, and we can look at prior days as well and see how well this indicator works. And there's a lot of stocks that I like to um, trade. I usually stick to the big names. So this is my list right here: Apple, Nvidia, Netflix, Tesla, Amazon, um, Facebook, AMD, Google, Microsoft. And if you stick with the big names, you'll have a lot of liquidity and a lot of volatility. So that's all I have for today. And that is how we can have our charts look extremely clean. So before we even start trading, we have levels where we are interested in. So I'm not trading all of this mess right here. I'm only trading once we hit our demand zone, once we hit our supply zone, and I make my decisions only once we get to those levels. Okay, so that's all I have for today. I'll try to keep this video, or I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to. All right, thank you everyone. Comment below if you have any questions. I'm sorry if I ran through too fast or if I skipped through anything. Just send me a message and I'll try to answer it and put it in the next video. Take care.